Fernanda, I can see the clock is ticking, and I think we're about 10 minutes behind, but I have to start with an apology. Some of the slides you're going to see, you've possibly seen before, but it's none of our doing that we still haven't started to build Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. As a company, we've been ready for a number of years. But sitting here, I realised it's some 3 years since we had consent to build Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. And it's probably 18 months or so since government's appointed expert, Charles Henry, reported to government in saying, it's a no regrets decision, get on with it. So we're looking forward to government, optimistically, we are looking at government to make some kind of positive announcement very, very soon, so we can start delivering our promise. And today's promise relates to the industry. Very, very early on in the journey, we were determined to deliver a new hydro industry for the UK, centred in Wales, not hydro industry, not only in terms of what we're looking to do, but much of that transferable to those industries that have been showcased here today. But for us, 6 lagoons, about 60 billion quid. Swansea's coming in at 1.3 capex, Cardiff about 8. Others have aspirations in delivering lagoons in North Wales, but our ambition comes in at about 12 billion. The strategy, build a small one first before you move on to something bigger and a lot more cheaper. I'm not going to go into the cost of energy today, because today is not about that, only to say that we can do it cheaper than nuclear. But about £60 billion for 6 lagoons, determined to spend 50% of Swansea Bay and thereafter in Wales, and the target for the UK is a minimum of 60%. And lots of building blocks have been put in place over the last 4 or 5 years. But that's obviously start of the aspiration. Probably 5 years ago again, we looked at opportunities around the UK coastline. And then we think there are about 15 sites where you can develop and build lagoons based on, for us, high tidal range and relatively shallow water. But as I said, we're focusing, like many others, on certain areas around the UK, but that's only the start of the picture. Masses of international opportunities, lots of interest from Canada, from China, from Australia, from France. We have a couple of guys in France developing a number of lagoons. So the industry and the export potential is massive. But it's, for us at least, it all starts in getting Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon over the line. And this is back in 2013. This is the marina in Swansea. Our approach, which I'll share with you, is we're a developer. We had little understanding of manufacturing, assembly. So we helped put together a number of industry experts. These industry experts across mechanical, electrical, high voltage, low voltage. And as that group developed and we understood more on what we needed to deliver, then the group appointed others who had different capabilities and capacities. An example would be Sheffield Forgemasters. Gareth is on the group, he's MD. But these also challenged us. And they hold me accountable, and they hold Mark Shorrock, the guy in the blue jumper behind me, in terms of delivering that local supply chain. And we used them considerably during the procurement process to identify our preferred bidders. So we would have people like Nick Ravel and Mark Coyer in those workshops with those potential Tier 1 contractors along that tender process, challenging them in terms of local content. And we often got into a position of quite unease, because, for example, a tenderer would say, well, we can't have this capability, or you haven't got this capability in the UK. And then we could quite easily turn to one of our industry experts to challenge that. And often they would embarrass those tenderers. But we got to a position where we identified our Tier 1 contractors, and you can see those listed behind me. In terms of the power generation, that's the joint venture between GE and Andritz Hydro. The turbines and sluice structures, big concrete slab on the seabed, then currently along a rock. The marine works, we preferred China Harbour Engineering Company, but we detached from those probably 2 years ago, so that's ready to go again. And the ancillary works, that's the contract for Arlen Griffiths, but all of these have committed to help us deliver that 50% local content and 60% UK content. And this is an example that I'm going to show you in terms of the M&E, I guess. This is a slide which Andritz Hydro's global chief exec presented at a little lunch we had in Gloucester. They had a couple of the chief execs, the global chief exec, myself, Mark Shorrock, and the chairman of that industry group, a guy called Roger Evans. And Mark's comments to Andritz was, convince that man of your ambition, that man being Roger, the chairman, of your local content. And this is what they threw up. Not the lunch, but this slide. None of this currently done in the UK. Understandably and accepting it's fairly big stuff, but in terms of casting and forging, we could have done some of this in Wales a number of years ago. But we've lost the capability. But that said, there is capability outside the UK. So this is initially their promise, that they will deliver these component parts in Wales and the UK. Where we have flags which are outside of the UK, then the ambition there is to bring that capability to Wales and the UK. And similarly for GE, this is the generators. Lots of local companies in Wales have already priced for many of these component parts. But just give you an example of the level of detail and our focus, which we had 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and still have today. This is something that we did in terms of making the supply chain aware of what we're looking to do. That we had a number of events, and again, unfortunately, it's 3.5 years ago. We held events with our Tier 1 contractors in the Liberty, in the Scarlet Stadium, and in the BIC in Pembroke. And some of these stats are really encouraging. I'm going to have to turn around. So 48% of those companies who attended those supply chain events confirmed that they had interface with those Tier 1 contractors. So that was really exciting. Without looking back, I can't see. But also what was exciting was many of those companies attending those events, currently not in the renewables marketplace, want to get into the renewables marketplace. Because after all, without the supply chain, we just won't deliver that new industry that we're looking to deliver. So this is a bit of a cross-check as well about how much work the Tier 1 contractors are doing out there. In terms of supply chain companies, then encouragingly, as of January, we have about 1,500 companies on our supply chain database. This reinforcing not only in terms of Welsh content, but in terms of UK's industrial strategy, the spread of economic benefit that we will bring once we get the go-ahead for Swansea and beyond. The last slide, if you want to get your pens in your hands, we'll tell you how to get involved. So we were determined during these events to share as much as we could with the supply chain. This in terms of the programme, the detail of some of what they're looking to deliver was communicated during those supply chain events. The manufacturing plant where we're looking to build the turbines, 16 hydro turbines for Swansea, 108 turbines for Cardiff, 128 turbines for Colwyn Bay. Then we were determined to have that facility in Wales. That facility, we announced some time ago, would be in Swansea. It's going to look nothing like that, but we've tendered that. We've got the preferred bidder. It's a £29 million build. It'll be a big factory. It will be Tidal Lagoon Power's global headquarters. So we're already along that journey. We just need that go-ahead. But other industrial opportunities along the South Wales coastline would include for fabricating, concrete manufacturing. The construction methodology for Swansea will be different moving forward. Lots of what we'll be doing will be on-site, off-site manufacturing. And we've identified locations across South Wales from Pembroke to Swansea to Cardiff and Newport where we will look to deliver these industrial hubs. And to support that, we've looked at within those areas of ambition, locations, is the supply chain there? Are there adequate and proper learning opportunities in terms of FE and HE? And I'm pleased to say that, look, there's masses of support in terms of supply chain, whether it's fabricating, whether it's civil engineering, whether it's HV or low voltage. There's lots of that already in South Wales, and those learning institutions are following up behind, because with the right people, with the right skills, then we're not going to have that industry that we need. And we were delighted that Welsh Government shared that vision with us and commissioned a couple of reports, and these are available on our website. But this is Welsh Government work, it's not our work. We fed into it with our Tier 1 contractors because we needed to understand what people you need as a supply chain, with what skill sets and by when. So contrary to what some of the press is saying, where there's 40 jobs in Swansea Bay, this is direct jobs in terms of construction, manufacturing for Swansea. Economists would differ between, for the one every direct job, there's 4 indirect jobs, but sizable numbers of jobs. Again, the level of detail, working with CITB, then we know the number of jobs, when, and those skill sets required. And we've done similar with ECITB. So we have a really good understanding of what the supply chain requires. Working with regional learning partnerships across Wales, fundamental for what we're looking to do, and therefore Welsh Government. But these will give you a bit of an idea of those jobs moving forward. We commissioned those same consultants to use the same methodology for Swansea to look at Cardiff, Newport, Colwyn Bay. And you can see that Cardiff is coming in at about 11,000 direct jobs. Colwyn Bay is coming in at about 14,000 direct jobs. So the economic ambitions and opportunities are massive. A quick one on where we are with those other lagoons, because we want to provide sustainability for the supply chain. Then I've highlighted some of the stuff that we've already achieved in Cardiff in terms of the work that we've done, in terms of the environment, in terms of achieving grid connection. We've done similar for those other lagoon locations that we're looking at delivering. Sustainability is key for us. And of course, Charles Henry. I referred to Charles Henry at the start. Charles Henry was government and is government's expert. He was the ex-energy minister. He was commissioned to look at tidal lagoons. And in terms of his conclusions, there are maybe half a dozen there, but fundamentally he said, just get on with it. Unfortunately, we're still 18 months without a response from government. But in terms of procurement moving forward, everything that we'll be doing over £5,000 will be advertised on Sell to Wales. And those of you interested in becoming a part of the supply chain, then please register on our supply chain database. Diolch yn fawr.